8. Those who come to power by crime. As there are also two ways of becoming a prince, which cannot altogether be attributed either to fortune or to prowess, I do not think I ought to leave them out, even though one of them can be dealt with at greater length under the heading of republics. The two I have in mind are when a man becomes prince by some criminal and nefarious method, and when a private citizen becomes prince of his native city with the approval of his fellow citizens. In dealing with the first method, I shall give two examples, one from the ancient world, one from the modern, without otherwise discussing the rights and wrongs of this subject, because I imagine that these examples are enough for anyone who had to follow them. Agathocles the Sicilian, not only from the status of a private citizen, but from the lowest, most abject condition of life, rose to become king of Syracuse. At every stage of his career, this man, the son of a potter, behaved like a criminal. Nonetheless, he accompanied his crimes with so much audacity and physical courage that when he joined the militia, he rose through the ranks to become praetor of Syracuse. After he had been appointed to this position, he determined to make himself prince, and to possess by force and without obligation to others what had been voluntarily conceded to him. He reached an understanding about this ambition of his with Hamilcar the Carthaginian, who was campaigning with his armies in Sicily. Then one morning he assembled the people and senate of Syracuse, as if he meant to raise matters which affected the republic, and at a prearranged signal he had all the senators, along with the richest citizens, killed by his soldiers. And when they were dead, he seized and held the government of that city, without encountering any other internal opposition. Although he was twice routed and finally besieged by the Carthaginians, not only did he successfully defend the city, but leaving some of his troops to defend it, he invaded Africa with the rest, and in a short time lifted the siege and reduced the Carthaginians to severe straits. They were compelled to make a pact with him, contenting themselves with the possession of Africa, and leaving Sicily to Agathocles. So whoever studies that man's actions and life will discover little or nothing that can be attributed to fortune, inasmuch as not by anyone's favor he rose through the ranks of the militia. As I said, and his progress was attended by countless difficulties and dangers. That was how he won his principality, and he maintained his position with many audacious and dangerous enterprises. Yet it cannot be called prowess to kill fellow citizens, to betray friends, to be treacherous, pitiless, irreligious. These ways can win a prince power, but not glory. One can draw attention to the prowess of Agathocles in confronting and surviving danger, and his courageous spirit in enduring and overcoming adversity, and it appears that he should not be judged inferior to any eminent commander. Nonetheless, his brutal cruelty and inhumanity, his countless crimes, forbid his being honored among eminent men. One cannot attribute to fortune or prowess what was accomplished by him without the help of either. In our own time, during the pontificate of Alexander VI, there was Oliverato of Fermo. Years before, he had been left fatherless as a small boy, and was brought up by a maternal uncle called Giovanni Fogliani. In his early youth, he was sent to serve as a soldier under Paolo Vitelli, so that he could win high command after being trained by him. When Paolo died, Oliverato soldiered under Vitellozzo, his brother, and in a very short time, as he was intelligent and a man of courage and audacity, he became Vitellozzo's chief commander. But he thought it was servile to take orders from others, and so he determined that, with the help of some citizens of Fermo, to whom the enslavement of their native city was more attractive than its liberty, and with the favor and help of Vitellozzo, he would seize Fermo for himself. He wrote to Giovanni Fogliani, saying that, having been many years away from home, he wanted to come and see him and his city, and to make some investigation into his own estate. He had worked for nothing else except honor, he went on, and in order that his fellow citizens might see that he had not spent his time in vain, he wanted to come home honorably, with a mounted escort of 100 companions and servants. He begged Giovanni to arrange a reception which would bring honor to Giovanni as well as to himself, as he was Giovanni's foster child. Giovanni failed in no duty of hospitality towards his nephew. He had him honorably welcomed by the citizens of Fermo, and lodged him in his own mansion. There, after a few days had passed, during which he waited in order to complete the secret arrangements for his future crime, Oliverato prepared a formal banquet, to which he invited Giovanni Fogliani and the leading citizens of Fermo. After they had finished eating, and all the other entertainment usual at such banquets was done with, Oliverato artfully started to touch on subjects of grave importance, talking of the greatness of Pope Alexander, and of Caesar, his son, and of their enterprises. When Giovanni and the others began to discuss these subjects in turn, he got to his feet all of a sudden, saying that these were things to be spoken of somewhere more private, and he withdrew to another room, followed by Giovanni and all the other citizens. And no sooner were they seated than soldiers appeared from hidden recesses and killed Giovanni and all the others. After this slaughter, Oliverato mounted his horse, rode through the town, and laid siege to the palace of the governing council. Consequently, they were frightened into obeying him, and into setting up a government of which he made himself the prince. And having put to death all who, because they would resent his rule, might injure him, he strengthened his position by founding new civil and military institutions. In this way, in the space of the year that he held the principality, he not only established himself in the city of Fermo, but also made himself formidable to all the neighboring states. His overthrow would have proved as difficult as that of Agathocles, if he had not let himself be tricked by Caesar Borgia, when, at Sinigaglia, was recounted above. Caesar trapped the Orsini and Vitellozzo Vitelli. Oliverato was also trapped there, and a year after committing parricide, he, along with Vitellozzo, the teacher, as regards both his prowess and his crimes, was strangled. One might well wonder how it was that Agathocles, and others like him, after countless treacheries and cruelties, could live securely in his own country, and hold foreign enemies at bay, with never a conspiracy against him, by his countrymen, inasmuch as many others, because of their cruel behavior, have not been able to maintain their rule even in peaceful times, let alone in uncertain times of war. I believe that here it is a question of cruelty used well or badly. We can say that cruelty is used well, if it is permissible to talk in this way of what is evil, when it is employed once and for all, and one's safety depends on it, and then it is not persisted in, but as far as possible, turned to the good of one's subjects. Cruelty badly used is that which, although infrequent to start with, as time goes on, rather than disappearing, grows in intensity. Those who use the first method can, with God and with men, somewhat enhance their position, as did Agathocles. The others cannot possibly stay in power. So it should be noted that when he seizes a state, the new ruler must determine all the injuries that he will need to inflict. He must inflict them once for all, and not have to renew them every day, and in that way he will be able to set men's minds at rest, and win them over to him when he confers benefits. Whoever acts otherwise, either through timidity or misjudgment, is always forced to have the knife ready in his hand, and he can never depend on his subjects, because they, suffering fresh and continuous violence, can never feel secure with regard to him. Violence must be inflicted once for all. People will then forget what it tastes like, and so be less resentful. Benefits must be conferred gradually, and in that way they will taste better. Above all, a prince must live with his subjects in such a way that no development, either favorable or adverse, makes him vary his conduct. For when adversity brings the need for it, there is no time to inflict harm, and the favors he may confer are profitless, because they are seen as being forced, and so they earn no thanks.